Welcome to the Through the Lane podcast with your co-host Lane. Carmine was going to try to be here today, but his lazy butt did not want to show up, even though it's the whole thing. He wants to be on eventually, but doesn't have the time. But, since we last had an episode, it's mainly going to just be covering the NBA draft. And all that co-inspired with it, what didn't co-inspire, just start off with the NBA draft review. And it was an interesting draft. I want to start off with picks I liked and picks I didn't like. Let me pull up. There's this whole process you have to go through. There we go. I really like the Alexander Sarr pick. I think that's a great pick for the Wizards center to build around. When really they don't have anything else. I mean, they just traded Denny Adija trade, and we'll just get into that in just a second. So Alex Sarr is pretty much what they build around. We can pull up the Wizards. They did give Malcolm Brogdon. But then again, the Billy, I'm going to call him Billy. It's pretty much the other building block. And he's not, insanely good. He's got, upside. He averaged, 84 points a game. He looks solid, but, they had Denny Adija. He was traded. Jordan Poole, just terrible efficiency. You have Kyle Kuzma, but I think Kyle Kuzma's either going to be traded or he's a free agent. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Patrick Baldwin has upside. Johnny Davis, both former first-round picks that just haven't turned out well. But yeah, really, Alexander Sarr gives them a true building piece that could probably go and average 15 and 10 with 2 blocks. And we're going to talk about the Denny Adija trade because one thing that really pissed me off about this trade was we're late in the night and it's this trade just happened. And they're still talking about the trade and the ramifications. Leading up to the draft, they did not talk about the trade happening. Mind you, the news broke at 5:30, 5 o'clock that Denny Adija had been traded 2 hours before the draft. But again, they acted like the whole time that the trade had just happened. No, it broke earlier today. I couldn't change any of the ticker on the bottom saying that it was a Wizards pick. What did they get in return? Let me look. Oh yeah, they just showed the Wizards got the 14th pick. It said that it was the Trailblazers, which pissed me off. It was it's not that hard of a thing, and they're well, and here comes the pick. It's the Trailblazers, but they just traded it. No, this trade happened a few hours before. Let's get it together here. Let's stop acting like this just broke. This happened hours ago, which kind of pissed me off. But talking about the trade, Wizards got Malcolm Brogdon, which he'll definitely be traded. Carlton Carrington, or Bub Carrington as they call him, which I don't know much about him. He kind of slingshot it up. He's described as a microwave scorer. So he's kind of one of those guys that's boom or bust. It's either going to work out really good and he's going to be a 15 to 23 point per game scorer, or he's going to be terrible. And the Wizards needed to take a hack. You got a surefire prospect in Alexander Sarr, who I wish the Hawks would have taken. I understand why you didn't take him, because you want to give Onyeka Okongwu his run time. But at the same time, we need a surefire center. I don't know if Onyeka Okongwu will be that guy, but I believe Alexander Sarr will be. But they get Malcolm Brogdon, 14th pick, which was Bub Carrington, a 2029 first-round pick, and then 2 seconds. And the Trailblazers get Denny Adija. Now, I don't understand what this does for the Trailblazers. Because you're feeling, the roster's getting kind of weird here. Okay, you got rid of your log jam of point guards, right? Okay, they're gone. But then you look at it here. Shaedon Sharpe plays a little bit of both. You have Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson. I get it, and then Matisse Thybulle. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent now. So I understand, you didn't really have a true 3, but you could have played Shaedon Sharpe at the 3, Anthony Simons at the 2, and Scoot Henderson at the 1. And that made 100% a lot of sense. But I guess I believe Anthony Simons will end up getting traded. That makes the most sense. And then Jeremy Grant would play the 4 with Danny Avdija at the 3. And then, another pick that like threw me off was Donovan Clinton going 7, right? So if you look at the Trailblazers roster, they have DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, Duop Reith, who was a great backup center, 9.1 points, 4 rebounds. He shot really well, okay? And you have Moses Brown. And what do? You draft another center in Donovan Clinton. Mind you, I did not expect him to fall that far, to be honest with you. I did not expect him to drop like he did. He dropped to 7. Thought the Spurs were going to take him. But he did, and they took him. So which it means I would believe you keep Robert Williams because he has little to no trade value. He's constantly hurt. And you trade DeAndre Ayton. Now, where DeAndre Ayton goes is up to interpretation. Looking at it, you would say maybe the Knicks, if they could get, the capital, because DeAndre Ayton would take a lot, but it'd be a lot of money. Yeah, maybe the Warriors, maybe, I'm not looking at a team that's a contender that could really use a center. I mean, if you really wanted to, the Lakers, but I don't think they have plenty of the assets to do it. Yeah, I mean, really, let's look here. I'm not looking at any teams that needed a center that didn't draft it. Maybe the Magic, maybe the Pelicans, because I'm not sold on their first-round pick being a starter. But I believe DeAndre Ayton's leaving the Trailblazers. I understand the trade, and I kind of like it, but at the same time, for the Trailblazers, I like the trade a little bit. I mean, it means you're most likely shipping off Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton because you got a redundancy of wing players and guards. You have 4 really solid centers at least, and you're going to spend the 7th overall pick on Donovan Clinton and not start him. The brother's 7 too. You put him, Scoot, and Shaedon Sharpe together, you got your core there. And then Danny Avdija, there you go. Find you a young power forward, but you have Jeremy Grant. That team can go flying, and maybe Chauncey Billups will do his job. Oh, not do his job, but will work out. Moving on, Stephon Castle. I wish the Spurs would have taken more of a facilitator, but he's a great defender. I think he can develop into more of a passer, scorer. So I like it. Ron Holland, I'm not a big fan of. I think they should have gone after Rob Dillingham or Cuddy Williams just because you get a wing that can space it with Asar Thompson being so limited from the three-point line. The Hornets take a freaking flyer, and I'm not saying his name. It's T.J. Saluni. And, I mean, it is a rough name to say. But, I mean, they're taking a flyer on him, and I guess when you're in their spot and you're starting to kind of bear them, yeah, you got to do that. Now, this is where it gets interesting, okay? This is where I was like, Spurs drafted Rob Dillingham. Great, we've got a guard. We've got a 2, okay? Because you can put Devin Vassell at the 3. Malik Branham and Blake Wesley don't look like they're there yet. Rob Dillingham looks pretty solid. Mind you, all, by the way, too, the 2 top Kentucky players drafted barely started games. They started a combined 6 games together. 6. They played like 30-something. So they played started at like a third, okay? But Rob Dillingham, who is a great scorer, okay, right? So Reed Shepherd, that was from Kentucky, great shooter. Rob Dillingham, awesome scorer, right? Something you need to have play a 2-man game with it, right? With Victor Wembanyama. They give up a 2030 and a 2031 draft pick to the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves give up a 2030 and 2031 pick, and they get Rob Dillingham in return. Okay? So now you've got draft assets for, I guess you're hoping the Timberwolves are bad then. But Rob Dillingham now would become a bench piece to the Spurs, and the Spurs get like 6 and 7 year down the line first round draft picks. It makes no sense when you kind of want to mold a team around Wembanyama. Now, credit, yes, you've got your future guard, but Rob Dillingham could have given you a lot more in the backcourt, and this just makes the Timberwolves just so much more OP, like 10 times more OP. And then this is the one that really got a lot of people. And I had a feeling, I looked at my dad and I said, watch, they'll take Zach Edey right before the Grizzlies did it. So the Grizzlies were trying to trade up to go get Donovan Clingan. And he went 7, right? Again, I am surprised he went 7. But they needed a center bad. And the only one that I knew that did really good in college that you could be like, oh, he like high floor, I guess, low ceiling, would have been Zach Edey. Mind you, when the whole draft process started, Zach Edey was a late second-round pick. Then he worked his way up to the late first. Then it was maybe a lottery pick. Brother went to the top 10, right? I don't like that pick. That is a reach beyond reaches. Just because he has no three-point shooting game. His footwork, yes, is good, but at times it fails him. He looks kind of unathletic. He's just a big dude, and he kind of bullies guys. Right? That was kind of they needed a center so bad that they kind of reached on it. I'm shocked they didn't trade up to 7 and give, I think so. I bet the Trailblazers were asking for G.G. Jackson or something, power forward of the future. And so, yeah. They go Zach Edey. I did not like that pick. I understood it, but I didn't like it. And moving on, the Thunder, 12th pick. It's just embarrassment of riches. You get rid of a point guard, pseudo point guard, and you bring in Nikola Topic, who right now he won't have to be asked to do it right away, and he'll be able to rehab. But then he'll just walk in and he'll start dominating, or not dominating, but doing really solid, fitting his role. He can kind of learn to develop. And then when Alex Caruso is gone, you can kind of just put him in the 2. Or put him in at the 1 and have Shea play the 2. Right? The Kings, they drafted Devin Carter. Right? And this led to Davion Mitchell being traded. And let me get to that trade. Because Davion Mitchell, who has not done well since he's been with the team, got traded. He's kind of been inconsistent, struggled a little bit. Let me look up his stats real quick. He's never been a great scorer. He kind of just bursted onto the scene due to a great run with Baylor. I think it was Baylor, right? Yeah, Baylor. And, his rookie year, he had 11.5 points per game, but he shot 42% from the field, 31% from the 3. It was bad. And 65% from the free throw line. Terrible. So he gets way less minutes. 2022, 5.6 points, right? 55%, 45% from the field, 32% from 3. Not good. Again, he gets less minutes than the year before. 54, 55, 45%. I can't talk. 36% from 3, 5.3 points a game. It just didn't look like he fit. And this is becoming on the run. Outside of Chris Murray, they drafted De'Aaron Fox. They drafted Tyrese Halliburton, Davion Mitchell, and Devin Carter. Right? Building way too many guards when you really need a shooting guard. And I guess Davion Carter can roll into the shooting guard spot. Or Devin Carter. But, again, I just don't... I would have liked them to have gone out and gotten a better, he played at Providence, right? He had 19.7 points. It won't give me average. It won't give me his percentage. But, he hit 84 threes. Shot 47% from the field. Oh, yeah, it does. 37% from 3. He can hit us all 3. Mind you, though, the 2 years before, he shot under 30%. He could probably end up being your 2 guard. Or just backup point guard to help lead the second unit. That was kind of weak. Not much of a passer. I'm not a big fan of that trade at all. But then, yeah. The Heat went out and they drafted a backup center. And they kind of needed it. Now, I like Orlando Robinson, but he struggled a little bit, which caused him to be in the G League for a while. And so I think they just needed it. He's kind of just a low floor or high floor, low ceiling type of guy. He'll be a solid contributor. Guy that fits the Heat well. So yeah. And the 76ers. Okay. Jared McCann, for some odd reason, had been pegged to go to the Sixers for most of the spring and summer. And he went. And it gives him a solid shooting guard or backup point guard that can knock down shots, kind of help play, get on ball, bring the ball up the court, let Tyrese Maxey play off ball, and they can run a little bit two-man game and help relieve the pressure off of Joel Embiid. Solid pick. This is one of my bigger steals of the draft, right? Don't Connect fell to 17. I thought that the Kings should have taken it with the issue they had at shooting guard. Dalton Connect went 17 to the Lakers. He's a win-now player. I think that will work really well for them. Mind you, I don't think it makes them title contenders, but I think it makes them a lot better because they needed some shooting and some scoring, and Dalton Connect brings that to them. Magic, they go for a Tristan da Silva out of Colorado. He's a little bit more of a project, but he looks like he'll be a solid, is an all-right pick. And then this is one where I kind of, got thrown to the side. Pelicans drafted Missy from Baylor. They needed a center. He's a little bit undersized. Another team that was trying to trade up and just failed. And, I'm not a big fan of it. I think you could have just gone out and signed somebody or traded for DeAndre Ayton. And who knows, they may. And that Missy just be a backup center since he was only the 21st pick. The Suns drafted Day'Ron Holmes, another center or forward. Let me look. Center forward out of Dayton. They needed some size up in the front. And it helps just kind of, add some depth to them. Bucks, and this is a pick that I did not like. Bucks drafted A.J. Johnson. He's got high upside, but a low floor. He's going to be a developmental project. They said that he'll probably not play at all in the NBA this year, that he'll be in the G League. The Bucks need to win now, and I never understood what the whole point was of that. Now, the Knicks had like 3 firsts. They traded the 24th overall pick to the Wizards. And then the Wizards got Keyshawn George. He's a solid guard, a solid forward. You can tell how little I know. He's a solid finisher. It looks like he can create some. He's an off-ball sniper, and compared to Omar Coffey, sorry about all that, struggled a little bit. Solid from the Wizards. Then they took some guy Diapiet, who no one really heard about. Another high upside kind of pick that they took just to swing to develop a guy that hopefully down the road he'll develop into something. Okay. Then Dylan Jones to the Thunder. They really like him as a microwave scorer. Terrence Shannon went to the Timberwolves. They're building out their bench right now. Then Isaiah Collier, who was really he was at the original point supposed to go number 1, but then he had such a bad year that he fell to the end of the first. And looking at another trade I'll just talk about in a second, but he ended up falling to the very late of the first round. Just issues. He didn't look like he's such an aggressive scorer. He looks like he's more of like a backup guy, maybe a fringe starter. So Day'Ron Holmes got traded to the Nuggets. The Suns got Ryan Dunn, the 56th overall pick in the draft night trade. Doesn't really say that how they did. They say he did get traded to the Nuggets. What is this Wizards trade? That was a 3-team trade. But then yeah, and the Celtics, everyone is big on Baylor. Sherman out of Creighton. I think I've seen his name so many times as him being the leading scorer. He's an elite dude. I think that was big for the Celtics. It helps them kind of build depth that they needed. Kyle Filipowski, now moving to the second round, Kyle Filipowski fell to their 32nd overall pick. And this is where it gets controversial. It is believed that he fell because he's dating a girl 10 years older than him, and he has excommunicated his family, and it is believed that his girlfriend's grooming him in Mormonism. Now, I'm not dogging on Mormonism. It's whatever you believe. But the whole situation apparently has played such a fact that he fell. Like, far, far. And you can do your own reading. He doesn't talk to his family, brother. He doesn't talk to really anybody. And so much so that it can concern the dude coaching staff. So he fell to 32 to the Jazz. I think this is a really good pick for the Jazz that he fell that far. I'm not really going to look at... I mean, the Knicks drafted Melvin... or the Mavericks drafted Melvin... I'm not saying his name. A really, really good athletic player. He looked like he'll end up being really good. This is something crazy. Warriors drafted Quentin Post. Traded to the Thunder, then to the Blazers, then to the Warriors. So the Warriors just reacquired him. Now here we go with the big thing. Bronny James went 55th overall. He was 3 picks away from going undrafted. To the Lakers. Shocking. I think we all kind of knew that he was going to go to the Lakers and then he was going to fall. I think this was a play that only benefits the Lakers in keeping LeBron and making him happy because, let's be honest, it's not a solid pick. Bronny James does not look good. He got drafted because of his name, because of his dad. I'm not high on him. I said this before. I think he needed another year of college. Now, he could be really good, but I think he needed more time. So, that's the end of that segment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, after the draft, this happened before. The Knicks traded for Mikal Bridges. They gave up 5 first-round picks and a Bojan Bogdanovic in a second. And so the first-round picks they gave up were 2025, 2027, 2029, 2031, and a pick swap in 2028 as long as the Milwaukee Bucks second in 2025. I think that's a massive overpay. I saw something that's like, now Giannis has to be worth 10 first-round picks, which is scary that you can get that for one guy now. I mean, Mikal Bridges is a solid player, right? Like, we'll pull up his stats. I think he is... I don't know if he pushes them into title contenders, but I think he makes them... They're scary, right? So, this past year, he averaged 19.6 points on 43% shooting from the field and 37% from 3, right? It's pretty solid. A steal a game. I mean, he's one of the better defensive players in the league. 2 years removed from finishing second in DPOY. He's been voted most improved twice, or in the most improved voting twice. I mean, the dude's just a unit. I don't know what the Knicks lineup looks like now. Now, they just re-signed OG Anunoby for 5 years, $212 million. And so, obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein's not coming back. So, they've got to find a center. And then you got to figure out what you're going to do with the bench. I mean, what is going to happen? I don't know what they're going to do because you could just run Mikal and OG, Julius Randle, Mitch Robb, and then have Josh Hart, Dante come off the bench. But I feel like that just, you're leaving the whole point of having the Nova core there. So I think you have to start everybody, which then puts Julius Randle to the bench and OG Anunoby. One of the Nova guys has to come off the bench. I mean, that's just how it has to be with the OG Anunoby signing. It adds some depth, but I saw something else that just recently happened. So KCP declined his option, and then Emmanuel quickly signed a 5-year, $175 million deal. Big money's going out. But yeah, I don't really understand. I don't know what the Knicks do. You need bigs. You need some more depth. I know that it helps you build depth. But, like, are you going to trade Julius Randle? I think you should. And then you can just get some depth pieces behind. I don't know where Julius Randle would go. Maybe Orlando. And then you kind of bring in a few guys. Not 100% sure yet, but... my train of thoughts died. But yeah, on to the next. The Rockets and Nets made a trade. The Rockets acquired some of the Suns' first round picks and gave the Nets some of theirs. Reason being that they are trying to make a push for Kevin Durant. as they really want him, and they believe that his time in Phoenix is almost up. Right? So, because Phoenix, like, let's be honest, is a crapshoot. And so, I think it'd be a smart move. I don't know what would happen. I think it's interesting. Now, I saw Woj say that these first-round picks that they gave up are potentially top 5 picks. So, you really have to be banking that you're going to get Kevin Durant. Because, yes, now some of these Suns picks may end up being first-round picks, or early first or mid-first. But those Nets picks were going to be really, really good. And to have made that trade for hopes of giving Kevin Durant was kind of wild. But, yeah, on to the next. The Jamal Murray signed an extension. Let me see. Because it was a pretty big extension. But, yeah, I think they needed that. Carmine, because me and him worked together, talked about how it may be a little bit of an overpay. I don't believe it is. I believe that they paid enough. He's really good in the postseason, right? And so I think that that's what they paid him for. And everything like that. Bam signed an extension. Let me look at Bam's extension. As he will be staying in South Beach. Let's see. 3 years, $166 million. I think he had another year or two left on his deal, but it's the earliest he can sign an extension. He's going to be there for a while. The Heat don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. Now, if he leaves, Jaime Jaquez can kind of step in and play that small ball forward if needed. I know they're going to most likely lose Caleb Martin because of all the money they're spending right now. And they could be in the market to trade for somebody. So they could be a guy that they try to acquire, Julius Randle. I don't think Julius Randle fits the franchise at all. But that is what it is. Bam's going to be in Long Beach for a while. News came out also that KP had major surgery. I forgot what it was on. But he'll be out for the next 5 to 7 months. So he may miss the early parts of the season with this mysterious leg injury that he was playing through. Which is insane that the timetable that long means it's serious surgery. That he played through that. The Hawks traded AJ Griffin to the Rockets. I think they got a first round pick in return for it. Let me see. That he kind of just fell out, and you kind of just knew. It was sad to see because I think he was such a great player for them. But the Hawks acquired the rights to Nikola Durjic from Serbia. Don't know if he'll play at all. But, they made that move for whatever reasons. The Warriors acquired Lindy Waters, and I believe that's a big thing. Wendell Moore was traded to Detroit. And Detroit also made another trade today, and we'll talk about it in a second. The Hawks with Zachary Reacher. It'll be interesting. His upside is, compared to Harrison Barnes, and which is kind of sad that he went number 1 overall. But hopefully it helps the Hawks. Hopefully they make a deal or two and they kind of just get back into contending for playoffs like they were before. Now, the Pistons. Let's look up, because I saw this as of this morning. They've been making moves. Oh, Quentin Grimes and something else for Tim Hardaway Jr. They bring on Tim Hardaway. They bring in a veteran, which I think is smart. Quentin Grimes provides a 3-and-D type of guy for the Mavericks that they needed terribly bad because they just struggled to play defense, struggled to hit shots, and I think he'll be a nice rotation piece because Josh Green did not hold up his end. He either was solid offensively or solid defensively. There was never both when he was playing. Now, Reggie Jackson was traded to the Hornets because of a backup guard. I'm so surprised by this trade just due to the fact of him being such a solid, contributor for the Nuggets. I don't know what they're going to do the backup point guard spot, but they acquired 3 unprotected second-round picks. I mean, I guess they got Tyson Johnson or whatever, Hunter Tyson, and then Julian Strother as the backup guard spot. So, there was a lot of moves, just players getting traded for second-round picks. A lot of stuff going on, and then a lot of extensions broke out as well. And I want to go back to this. I think Bronny James will end up being a bust. I don't think he had enough time in college to develop, and the pressure that comes with being in the NBA, you don't have the development leeway that you do in college. So I think Bronny James will end up being a bust. And then for the last thing we're going to talk about, I just saw this earlier, Houston Texans, and where they're going to be in their league, right? I believe the Houston Texans are going to be one of the better teams in all of football right now, right? So you have Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. That's your starting the three receivers. Backing up Ben Skoranek, who's a very solid receiver. John Mechie III, Noah Brown, who was very solid. Xavier Hutchinson, who was very good. And Robert Woods, a one-time 1,000 yards receiver. Okay? Deep. They go 3, 6, 8 guys deep of the receiving core. They're going to most likely have 3,000-yard receivers and a few 400 to 500-yard receivers as well, right? Okay? Then tight end, Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. 2 really good tight ends, right? Then at running back, you have Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce at one point looked like to be the franchise running back. Last year he had a little bit of a step back, but that's still, you got power, you got fast Joe Mixon, power hitting Dameon Pierce. Great 1-2, right? Let's go to the line. Titus Howard, very serviceable tackle. Laramie Tunsil, one of the best tackles in the league. Kenyon Green, top pick a few years ago, like the 5th overall pick in 2021. Juice Scruggs looks like a great center. Or not great, but he looks like a great pick. He looks like it was very solid, serviceable starting center, right? Then you have Shaq Mason, another really good guard, right? So it's deep. Then Kendrick Green, who's a backup guard. A lot of depth, a lot of starting experience as a guard on this team. Because before Shaq Mason, it was Kendrick Green. That was the starting guard, okay? Go to defense, right? Will Anderson Jr. had a great year. Okay? I think he's like defensive rookie of the year, right? Then you add Hunter Donnell. Brother was top 5 in sacks last year. One of the best pass rushers in the league. So you add 2 very good, so you have one of the most talented pass rushers and a very productive one, and you put them together like I wanted the Lions to do, right? Just get a booking guy, because really what teams were doing, getting rid of Will Anderson, and then they just kind of had Jonathan Greenard, but they weren't really worried about him, right? So what they went out and did, so we need a premier pass rusher to put alongside Will Anderson, have 2 premier pass rushers to cut after the quarterback, because in the AFC, you need to get after the quarterback. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. You can go down the line. All the rookie quarterbacks, right? You needed to be able to chase after the quarterback, and they did it. Also backing him up, Derek Barnett, very solid pass rusher, right? Okay. Christian Harris, really good pass rusher. Foley, he came from Jacksonville, right? Very good nose tackle. And Danico Audrey, another really good D tackle, right? Then you look at the linebacker spot. Aziz, who he played for the Titans last year, I think, but he originally played for the 49ers, was great with the 49ers, right? He was one of the better linebackers in the league. Then you have Toho, another very good, solid linebacker, right? Okay? I feel like we're missing a linebacker here. Christian Harris. Christian Harris. Not pass rusher. I was thinking of the other guy. He's another very, very good linebacker. Came from Alabama. Right? Then you go to the secondary. Derek Stingley, potential to be a lockdown corner. Jalen Petrie, great strong safety. One of the better strong safeties in the league. Jimmy Ward, another really good free safety. Okay? Then you go Desmond King. At one point was one of the better nickel dimes in the league. Then you have first or second round pick in Kamari Lassiter from Georgia, who's a really good player. Really good corner, right? And then at the backup, you have C.J. Henderson, okay, first round pick. He's a top 10 first round pick, I think. Jeff Okudah, top 5 first round pick a few years ago. Mike Ford, really solid. I mean, the team's depth. You have Troy Pride and Brandon Hill, 2 very experienced backup safeties and backup defensive backs. I mean, this team is deep. I say they're either the second or third best team in the AFC. I think they're the second best team in the AFC just because they're so deep offensively. You want to look at the Jets, and I'll pull them up real quick. They lack depth and they lack the offensive weapons. They don't have enough for my liking, right? Like, once you go past Xavier, like their slot receiver is meh. It's meh. Xavier Gibson, right? You have, a rookie that you want that hopefully shows up there, right? Their offensive line's solid. They just drafted Olu, but, they don't know if Olu will start, which is wild that you pass up on Brock Bowers for a first-round pick that probably won't start. But, okay. So it's Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, right? Okay, solid offensive line. Terrible tight end core. Running backs, meh, right? A little inexperienced. Okay. Defense. Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quentin Williams, Hassan Reddick. That's a nasty front four, right? Nasty front four. Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, solid, two really good linebackers. There's no real depth. I mean, Will McDonald and Thomas Solomon and Tack McKinley, okay, right? Like, they're solid, but they're not, I guess they have more depth defensively than the Texans do, right? But then you go to the secondary. Sauce Gardner, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, free safety. Bernard Converse, I think could make a run at the starting safety spot, and DJ Reed, and then Michael Carter the second, and Isaiah Oliver. Okay. Secondary wise, I give it to the Texans. Just because I believe the Texans have, like, let's look at this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 former first-round picks. 2 of them are starting. Then you have very top. Now, I don't know about Jimmy Ward, and I think Kamar Lassiter was a second-round pick, right? 2 really, it's just depth there. Linebacker, not so much, but, let's look at, there's no real true linebacker depth. I think the Jets are a few injuries away from being in a hole, being one of the worst teams in the league. I wouldn't say that about the Texans. They got depth at receiver, depth at running back, depth in the secondary. They've got, they have it's just the front 7, right? They have some depth at, line too. The Jets really don't have depth on the offensive line, right? I mean, yeah, Wes Schweitzer, Max Mitchell, Xavier Newman, and Olu. Okay. But it's still older guys. And we don't know what we're going to get from Aaron Rodgers. He has yet to return. Hassan Reddick has yet to be back at camp. So you don't know what you're getting from there. And it's an older team. This team for the Texans is really, 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 really young. One of the younger teams in the league. They're playing with house money. You got a young, athletic crew of guys. I think they're the second best team behind the Chiefs in the AFC. And I think they can give the Chiefs a run for their money because not only do they have the offense to keep up with them, they have the defense to stifle them. And I just believe, that's what they did. They went in and got depth at corner so they could throw multiple corners at you. And, last year, Derek Stingley missed time. Kind of put him back behind the 8 ball. They said, not this year. Not this year. We're going to bring in 2 former second-round picks, and we're going to hope they touch a little bit in their potential. And Jeff Okudah, who's been ravaged by injury. Both guys have been ravaged by injuries, right? Jeff Okudah looked very solid for the Falcons last year. So, again, he can push for Kamar Lassiter. Kamar Lassiter is coming off the bench as a backup corner. That's still really good, right? And then C.J. Henderson. Not C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Whoa. C.J. Henderson. C.J. Gardner-Johnson plays for the Eagles, right? Not only that, I believe C.J. Stroud is better than Aaron Rodgers. He's younger. Had played all of last year. He's not coming off an insane injury. And he just looks better. I don't know, talent-wise if they're the same, but I think right now in their careers, C.J. Stroud is 10 times better, right? That's all for today's episode. We had a little delay in the middle, and there's some pauses. But hopefully Carmen's at the next episode. He's about to leave for vacation, and I'm about to have a very busy start of July. I did buy College Football 25. The game looks amazing, and I will talk about it on here a little bit. When it does come out, I pre-ordered it in the deluxe edition, so I will get it early. So I will talk about it on here. But yeah, I kind of went brain dead halfway through. Brain just flatlined, so I apologize about that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.